And in that moment, I learned that it's very, very important for me to never, ever pin my happiness or myself on future goals.
The hardest part is figuring out what you want to master.
Focus on your product.
Can you tell somebody that they suck?
You got to just go for
this is exactly what I want to do for a living.
You can't even tell somebody that their breath is life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Short Story Long. We are here with Steve Bartlett.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming. Pleasure. I just did your podcast, The Diary of a CEO, and it went great. You asked really good questions and have a really good, I think. One thing that you did that I thought was really cool was even if you agreed with me, you still pushed back on the things that I was saying to try to make sure you got like a deep perspective.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
And that's genuinely not because I'm trying to be a good interviewer, because I believe something, but I want to further my belief by really getting to the core of why you believe it too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's smart. It's smart, and I think that like I forget to do that a lot, and I think a lot of people forget to do that just even in conversations, right? Because you kind of like have this thing that you believe, and if somebody agrees with you, you're like, great, me too, and then you just keep on going. You know what I mean? But you really did a good job at like kind of dissecting from all angles and saying, well, why is that true? Or why, you know what I mean? What if
Devil's
it's
advocate.
not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Why did you start a podcast?
Great question. So I think the reasons why I started it are much different from the reasons I continued it. The reasons I started it is because I'm building my personal brand and I thought there was this huge rise in podcasting. The reason why I continue it is because it's like therapy to me in a number of ways. It's helping me figure out my life, and it's much more personal and goes deeper than anything else that I produce. It's because of the nature of how and when you consume it. I think for the listener, it just seems to go deeper, and I can be more raw because I'm recording them often at odd hours of the day, sometimes 3 a.m. at nighttime in my cupboard under the stairs at home. You go deeper in your head.
Do you do them solo sometimes?
Yeah, so half of them are solo.
And what do you do when you're alone? Like, what topic?
I literally, as I'm going through my week and the month, I will write stuff in my diary that I notice about life. So, and then I go home Sunday night. The only time I can do it seems to be Sunday because of headspace. And I literally go into this little room under the stairs, lights off, and I look at the notes I made in my diary and I talk on those notes. And these are anything. So as I flew out to New York this time, there was a lady sat in business class next to me with the biggest smile on her face the whole flight. And it just fucked with my head because I had got so used to this business class thing that I see it as, I don't know, it's like, it's just normal to me. And the joy she had made me feel like a piece of shit. So that's the kind of thing I scribbled in my diary, and then I'll spend 10 minutes talking about that and how.
And so you just talk about like, this is how it made me feel. Is there some sort of, do you give it like some sort of lesson learned, or you just kind of express how you felt?
I express it, and I express it, and through expressing it, you learn a lesson, I guess, because I've learned one. Sometimes they end just as like a ponder. It just ends as there's no lesson. I'm still thinking about this. Often I'll say things like, this is the thing that's bugging me that I haven't got the answer to. Here's what I think the answer is, but I'm not sure. And then you'll hear me talk about the same thing 6 weeks in a row, trying to figure out the answer as I'm collecting more and more information. And the listeners will message me and be like, listen, you're wrong on this. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really cool. Would you notice, how long are those episodes?
Like 45 minutes on average.
Got it. And then do you notice, what difference do you notice between when you have a guest and when you do solo? Do you notice any big difference or not really?
The solo ones are the best.
Really?
Crazy, right?
Because it's more relatable, probably?
I think that's it. But I think they're following a journey. And I think you want the next installment of the journey. I was the one that wanted guests on because it's more interesting for me. Like I find it more enjoyable to speak to interesting people, right? But my team have continually told me that if you look at the numbers, the ones where I sit alone and vent and go through my notes in my diary are the ones that have the most retention, the most listeners, the most downloads.
That's cool.
Which for me is hard because
it's hard, man. I think it's great. Like it's so cool, and I love the idea of being able to do solo podcasts because obviously you don't have to rely on anyone. You can just do them. It just feels so Like you're just out there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you can't hide
Yeah.
behind anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you and I don't know.
What if you had nobody in the room right now,
Yeah.
and you just looked at, and you through the week you made a bunch of notes on things that had either pissed you off, made you feel things you'd never felt before, worries, concerns, relationships, your mum, your dad, whatever.
Yeah.
Kept them all in a diary, and then one time a week you just came in here alone,
Yeah.
right, late at night, and you just talked through those things.
Yeah.
That would be the most interesting thing for me.
Yeah, I
as
should
an
try it.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Let me
I'll
know.
let you know how it goes. What's been the hardest thing about podcasting? Because it's like
Just
you and I
being-
relate a lot on the fact of how beneficial it's been to our lives outside of just building a brand, right? Like it's just having these conversations, having an excuse to sit down with people and pick their brains is really cool. But it is super challenging. I think even more so than a lot of people think. What's been the hardest for you?
For me, with the whole personal brand stuff and producing content, it's just finding time.
Yeah.
And also finding the headspace right now for me and where I'm at.
Yeah.
Finding time to sit down alone and talk like that is just the hardest thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
Because I never switch off.
Yep.
My team will say, "Oh, Steve, you've got time tonight." I'm like, "I've not got the headspace tonight
Yeah.
to sit and just not think about anything else, turn my phone over."
Yeah.
So I'd say 95% of the podcasts I've recorded on my own have been recorded between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
without fail. There's
Yeah.
just no way for me to find the headspace during the week.
Yeah, that's the magic time.
Mhm.
You know, that's the
Yeah,
magic time
yeah.
for those like
Just-
nobody else is up.
Yeah, no one's
your
bothering
phone's
me.
not buzzing.
I'm floating away in my head. I'm wandering around in my boxes. Like
So true. What else are you doing content-wise? You do a vlog or like?
I used to do a vlog when I've just moved to the US, so
Yeah.
I've put that on hold. But I did a vlog every single day. I made videos on Facebook, which really were the thing that most people would have known me for, because those videos did like 50 million views, 40 million views, 10 million views, and they were just 90-second videos of me ranting on a topic.
Yeah. Why'd you stop?
Great question. Time.
Yeah. That's a
'Cause
lot of views though.
a lot of views,
Yeah.
right? And I would do it again if Facebook put me on Facebook Watch,
Yeah.
which I'm talking to them about
Yep.
this week, literally today, because watch videos are getting a lot more views, but it's just time. Because, okay, it's a 90-second video, but I do script that. I sit down and I think about everything from the meme bars to the content, and I only ever make videos that I care about.
Yeah.
I don't make videos for... This is the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
I only make videos I care about.
Yeah.
I don't
hard
make
'cause you
videos
have
for
2 weeks
views.
where you don't care about anything. You know what I mean?
So my girlfriend breaks up with me. I make this, well, she didn't break up with me. I broke up with my girlfriend and I make a video called The Single Biggest Killer of Relationships because I know why I've broken up with her is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And I make that video, it does 40 million views on Facebook. And I don't make a video for another month and a half because nothing I really care that much about.
Yeah. How do you decide? This is one thing that I deal with is like let's just say you're scheduling a day tomorrow.
Mhm.
And you can schedule, let's pretend for a moment that everything in your schedule is within your control, right? You're not obligated to do any meetings or anything like that.
Right.
And you can control how much time is spent on your business and how much time is spent on your personal brand.
Yeah.
How much time would you just divvy it up between the two and why? Like, how do you decide when personal brand is more important or building a business is more important?
Great question. I think they are, in my case, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So if I spend 10 hours in a day trying to build my business, that's actually 10 hours spent building my personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing I think a lot of people trying to build their personal brand don't understand. They think if I spend 10 hours building my personal brand, that will return the greatest like ROI. For me, it's not. For me, I know that the bigger my business gets, the bigger my personal brand gets. So, you know, but I also understand that along the way. So I'd probably, in 9 hours in a day, I'd probably spend 1 on my personal brand.
Got it.
And then, but in my head, it's like those 9 hours spent on my business, they're going to do more for my personal brand than 9 hours spent on my personal brand long term.
And is that because like it's kind of what you're saying, I think, but because there's so much more longevity and scale to your actual business than there is to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, completely agree.
That's how you justify
it's because my
that.
business is, it's big and it's growing fast. And if it was like a fairly stagnant business, then I would probably be trying to reap the personal brand stuff more.
Yeah.
But I feel like in my business, I'm in a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm sprinting at the moment.
Yeah.
I think in 5 years' time, a completely different answer.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because I just like with all this stuff becoming more and more and more important, social media and all that stuff, it's like, it's just something I battle with is like, at what point should I be doing 2 podcasts a week instead of 1, right? But that's going to mean a significantly more amount of time spent on that stuff. And I don't know yet if I'm willing to take that time away from something that's working. You know what I mean? And like you said, the part that people don't understand is it's mental space. It's not actual physical time spent, because it's nearly impossible to shift from like, if I'm in this mental space today, to shift to like, okay, who are my next 5 podcast guests and what am I going to talk about, is a big shift. You know what I mean? It takes up a lot of, there's like a 2-hour warm up and 2-hour cool down period. You know what I mean? And so that's something that I just am constantly trying to make sure that I'm balancing the right way. You know?
I feel like I'm stuck between kind of, I'll give you 2 examples. You got my mate Jay Shetty, who is, his full-time job is basically this. Producing content is his full-time job. So he's able to put out so much content. On the other hand, you've got Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep.
Again, great guy. I've had him on a couple of times and spoke to him a number of times. His great advantage is he has a team of 20 producing content for him. Yeah. I'm stuck in the middle where I have no time and I don't have 20 people. So like, I'm trying to keep up, but I don't have one of these significant I don't have the time or the 20 people. You know?
It's tough out here to be a influencer. So take me, because we talked for a while and I feel like you're my friend now and I know you, but I don't know anything about like sort of how you grew up or where this all started. So where were you born?
I was born in Africa, in Botswana, in a village.
Really?
Yeah.
And how long did you live there for?
Until I was 2.
And then you moved
to the UK into the countryside.
And why? Like, how did that go down?
My mum is African. My dad is English. So my dad was over there working, met my mum.
Got it.
He had 2 kids in the UK with my mum. Then we must have gone back, had 2 more over there. Me being the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
Moved back to the UK and set up a life there.
Got it. And so all of your earliest memories are UK, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Got it. Do you ever go back to Africa to visit? Like,
I've been once, but it wasn't to where I was from.
Yeah.
It was just for the safari. Like,
you don't feel like any major. There's not like a bunch of family there.
No. I've got loads of 30 uncles and aunties apparently, but my granddad was a bit of a, but I've never met any of them.
Yeah.
I don't know any of my family. Crazy. Even my UK family, don't know any of them.
Why?
Just the dynamic it was the dynamic of my mum being African and my grandmum not liking that. So a distance grew between my dad's family and my mum's family are a million miles away. So I don't, if I walk past my uncle in the street, no idea.
Really?
I don't even know my cousins. I would never know them.
So your family was just you guys?
Just us guys, yeah.
And there was 4 total, you're the youngest?
Yeah.
This is one thing I ask a lot because I'm a younger brother. Do you feel like any of your like drive and ambition came from being the youngest?
100%.
Yeah.
But probably for slightly different reasons, in the sense that my mum and dad my mum has an addiction to starting businesses, and they all fail.
Yeah.
And she's done that for 25 years, and still today she's starting a business which is going to fail within the next couple of months. She started business after business after business, and she really took hold of that addiction when I was about 6. So when I was 10 to 12 years old, I would wake up in the morning, my mum and dad weren't there because my dad had a full-time job, my mum was starting businesses, and she would sleep on the floor of the business she started for my whole childhood. And then when I got home from school and went to bed at like probably 3 a.m. because I was up playing games and no one was around, my mum still wasn't home. So I literally, what she did is she presumed kind of that I was the same age as the oldest.
Yeah.
And therefore I got the freedom to literally at 12 years old, I could leave the house for 3 days. No one would tell me shit.
Really?
Yeah. I would have to find my own school dinners, if I wanted nice shoes at school, I'd have to find out a way to make the money.
Yeah.
It was like they forgot to parent me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. At the time, did you remember that being like tough?
Didn't know any different, to be honest, as a kid. I had immense freedom, which I loved, but then I didn't have Christmases or birthdays. We never celebrate, we just didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So that was tough as a kid because you go into school and everyone's got nice stuff and I had nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
Yeah. And your mom being so like serial
Fail entrepreneur.
Yeah, entrepreneurial. It had to have an impact on you too, right? I mean, just thinking like I have the ability to start my own thing. Like that's
mean,
a path people take.
The model she set of like repeatedly failing at business and
Yeah.
driving your family into like misery and bankruptcy is not something that inspired me. What did inspire me was the work ethic.
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand like how you're working all day, then literally going in the back room, sleeping on the floor, getting up, working all day. I was like, damn, like.
Yeah.
But she also, because she wasn't around, drove me to realize this real important connection, which is anything that I have or attain will be a direct result of what I do. No one's giving me shit. And you imagine like 13, 14-year-old kid on the playground wanting nice things, just starts selling stuff, starts selling cigarettes that my mum bought from Africa that she put in the back room, like really like hustling and realize, you know, that connection is something I want my kids to have.
Yeah.
Is if you want something nice, it's going to come from you, nobody else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I talk a lot about like sort of how you, I don't have kids, but one day I will, and like parenting and how you instill those values on purpose. Because a lot of people that I talk to got them on accident. You know what I mean? Like meaning their parents did it on accident.
fucked
Not
up.
Yeah, like not knowing.
yeah.
It's almost like this mutation happens
Yeah,
where like
yeah,
a mistake turned into
yeah.
like your greatest
Yeah.
quality, you know?
100%.
And so you think that was from her just not, she didn't buy you, you didn't have gifts, you didn't have whatever, and it was just like, look, if you want it, you figure out how to get it.
She didn't even say that though.
But you just figured that out.
It's like wake up in the morning hungry.
Yeah.
I need to go to school today and I need to get there and I need to eat at some point during the day.
Yeah.
Like figure out, and then, you know, there's a school trip.
Yeah.
Everyone's going. I've got no money, you know? So it's that constant, it's the over freedom and the over independence which drove that connection in me, which I think is, I say it all the time. My parents fucking up is the reason I am everything I am.
Yeah.
And they didn't fuck up as much with the other kids. So the other kids aren't like that.
Yeah.
It
The other kids have normal jobs?
Yes, yeah. They're all like super straight down the line.
They're still in the UK?
They live in other parts. Two of my brothers live in the UK, and one of my sisters now out with her partner in like Tokyo or whatever.
Got it.
But they're very straight down the line, low risk.
That's
you know.
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Did that ever get you in trouble?
Yes,
So you, at a young age, like what age did you start getting?
I would just again that connection can be dangerous, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know
So-
why, but people go one of two ways with that environment.
Yeah.
And usually it's the trouble way.
Yeah. So my best friend said to me when I was 18 years old, and this just gives you a hint of my character.
Yeah.
Well, of what he thought of what he thought of me was, and this is my best friend, Steve. Here's something that I know to be true. You'll either be, and this was when I was completely broke. You'll either be a multimillionaire or you'll be in jail. Because it's the same set of like, it's just where your sort of moral compass falls.
Yeah.
And for me, as a young kid, I mean, look at so much freedom when you're like 14.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything. I'm breaking into houses. Like, I'm climbing in through the window, not even just to steal stuff, just to break in.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
I'd
for
go in there
something
and
to do.
steal like a spanner. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I got a spanner. Like, and that was the over freedom of
Yeah.
this. I'd break into my school. Nobody knows that. I dressed up and cycled down to my school at night and broke in multiple times.
Did you ever get caught like bad?
Never.
Never.
Mhm. And we would do all kind. We would make. I can't even say some of the things we'd do. Like we'd try and make bombs. We'd like set massive fires.
Yeah.
We lived in the countryside and we're like 14-year-old kids basically with no parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of bad things.
That's incredible. When, like at what point did you start to wrap your head around the fact that you could use that same mentality for a good reason? Was that until later?
I think at all times I was using it for both.
Yeah.
I was never. My teachers said to me when I went back and spoke at the school, "You were the nicest guy," and I would never swear.
Yeah.
My mum is hard African. Like she would beat my ass. She would put pepper in my eyes frequently if I did anything, and I don't mean like brown. I mean the red cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
My mum is if I was to shoplift, she'd put me out on the street butt naked, holding a sign saying I did that. Wow. Like she's real hard. So I was also a very good guy.
Yeah.
I was just a real like rebel out behind the scenes, but I respected my mum. You can imagine.
Yeah.
To
So you
answer,
were a balance of both.
I was exactly a balance of both.
Yeah.
I knew what was wrong and right, but I had so much freedom that I was just a 14-year-old kid
You could push both.
messing around. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this too. Did you ever, like growing up, like high school era, have any early passions that you thought might be your life path? Sports or anything
Two.
like that?
Yeah. So football was my thing. I was good at that. And then I had a big injury to my leg, which I've still got today, which kind of changed that. And business.
Yep.
Really
so you knew
on.
early that like this is something.
I really liked making money. When I was 9, 10 years old, my favorite game to play was going and getting a big stack of paper, writing 1s on this side, 2s on that side, 3s, cutting it, giving it to my brothers and sisters, and telling them to come to my bedroom and give it back to me in exchange for services. So I would make my bunk bed into a salon, and you could come and give me my fake money for a massage or for a foot rub. And I'd literally make the branding on the side of my bed. And my brothers and sisters, because they're older, they would just game the system. They'd come and exploit me, and then the game was over when I had all the cash. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was my favorite game to play, and I hated it when they wouldn't play it with me. And then that turned into actually doing that in real life.
Yeah. Did you have a
Trying
name
to.
for the game?
No,
Oh, man.
it was my favorite game to play.
That's incredible. What do you even call that?
I don't know.
Just money
I don't know.
making.
It was like a real life Monopoly, you know? And
Yeah.
I would say to them, you've all got your own rooms, and we'll exchange. But they just exploited me, and then the game ended. Like, you know what I mean? Because
so
I was the
good.
youngest. I'd be their slave for like a day for this
That's
paper
so
money.
good.
And I'd collect all the money, and the game's over.
What a good game for your little brother to love, because all you're doing is just getting free, amazing
Yeah,
things.
free stuff, yeah. I'd be your slave for a whole day.
And it's your idea.
My idea.
And you're having the time of your life.
And I'd get so annoyed if they stopped playing. It would break my heart when that game ended.
It's amazing.
I'd be like, I'll give you money back. We can play again. Like,
Yeah. When was your first like money making hustle or anything? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So, I think there's another point which is really interesting to me was
Yeah.
when I was on the playground, when I was, God, how old was I? Maybe 6. There's a photo of me and this girl called Samantha, 6 years old. I fancied this girl called Samantha, playground crush when you're in primary school.
Of course.
Nothing. She got into a relationship with my friend Freddie. And most kids at that age would probably, I don't know, wait it out. I don't know, maybe attack him or something.
Yeah.
My thing was, and this sticks to me because I'm like, that was the moment you were like, I went and got stones and I carved all these stones with like this unique number, like 1, 2, 3, and I put a little symbol on these stones. And then I basically announced on the playground that I'm starting a gang, like a playground gang / club.
Yep.
I would like market the shit out of this gang. Everybody wants to join the gang. Everybody does. I make one rule. You can't have a girlfriend. Freddie dumps his girlfriend. Samantha, Freddie Stewart dumps his girlfriend. Samantha becomes available. I disbar this gang. I couldn't care less about it. And I pursue her. That was my way of getting a girl. If you see, I've got this photo I'm going to show you after we're done of how small, I was literally this big.
Yeah.
And that was my game. And I think that is what had made me fearless, knowing that I could influence my peers to perform desired outcomes. This kind of links to my question, the answer to your question. It was when I was 14 and I was going to this event called Destinies, which was an under-18s party. It was the only time I got to see this girl I fancied at another school, and they stopped the event. It was when all the schools came together, big under-18s. So I decided to restart the event when I was 15, and that became my big money earner. That's what most people in the Southwest knew me for until I moved to Manchester to drop out of uni. But that became me running all the school events, me putting on all the school trips. I'd do all the consent forms. I would have the beanies made for our school and other schools. And my school, by the age of 16, gave me a whole wall in our common room, which was where Steve basically marketed his events.
Yeah.
And in front of that wall was one of the many vending machines I had brokered a deal with for our whole school, so that they got 20% of the revenue instead of having to buy these machines.
Yeah.
Like I was like mad entrepreneurial when I was a kid.
What was that deal again? What was that vending machine deal?
Basically, I was sat in the common room at 16 years old, and the heads of my school were flicking through this big catalogue, trying to find big vending machines for our school of 2,000 students to buy. And I said to them at the time, we've got 2,000 customers. The company should pay us to put their machines here.
Yeah.
Went to the computer room, email 5 companies, go back to my lessons. I get pulled out of my lesson in period 5 because one of these companies has just sent a guy to measure. Turns out he used to go to our school. He's now the CEO of one of the biggest vending machine companies. I have to go to the headmaster and say, there's a guy here to measure these machines. They're going to fit them for free, and they're going to give us 20% of the revenue in forever, and they'll service them. And that's still the deal we have today. And I've been back to my school twice, and all the other schools in our area have the same deal with the same company now. So
You were super
lots of things like that.
entrepreneurial.
Yeah, but like it was more just very selfish, and I wasn't thinking. I didn't know what the word entrepreneur was.
Yeah.
It was I can make money to buy nice shoes and a bag.
I also think like learning at a young age that you can manipulate the outcome that you want is a very powerful thing. You know what I mean? Some people are just taught and raised and whatever that things are the way they are, exist properly within them. You know what I mean?
Play to the script. Your job is not to be the director.
Yeah.
It's to be the actor.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I separated myself from was, I can actually write this.
Yeah.
Same with school. I got expelled from school because I decided that I wouldn't need it anymore. My attendance hit 30%. They kicked me out on the last month.
Was that college or high school?
What do they call it? It would be high school, yeah.
Yeah. And then you ended up going to college, right?
Yes, yeah.
That was in Manchester?
Yeah, it was a very poor university.
And why did you even go?
So, my school tried to expel me on 2 occasions. The first time they expelled me, I took the form to Mr. Sprenkle, who was the head of Key Stage 5, gave him the form. He ripped it up and said, if Mr. Thomas gives you another one of these forms, give it to me because you're my little Harry Potter. I keep you under the stairs because you make the school so much money. And I've gone back to speak twice, and every time I speak, I put this. It starts with a photo of Harry Potter, and Mr. Sprenkle burst out laughing. The last time they expelled me was a month before school had ended. It was a principal thing. My attendance was so low. I went off to university under the assumption that university was actually going to be about this one thing that I loved, which was business.
Yep.
I arrived at university, I looked around, and I realized that this again was just a scam.
Yep.
This was just a bunch of people who had been told to pick something, anything, that really didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives.
Yep.
And I didn't want to go to the same place that they were going. I remember looking over on my right-hand side, and this girl sat next to me, the most prejudiced thing you'll ever hear anyone say. Looking at her and how uninterested she was made me realize that, like, I don't want to go where she's going. So I dropped out that day. First lecture out, walked back to my thing. I was like, I'm done with this. This is the same scam that school was.
Yeah.
And I was going to figure it out from there. So call my mum, tell her I'm dropping out of uni. She says I'm not going to speak to her ever again.
Really?
She didn't speak to me for 2 years.
That's how set she was on.
She's African. It's a very, education's a super, it doesn't matter where I go or what I study. Her other 3 kids went to top universities. You're talking like your Cambridges, your London School of Economics. These are the number ones. It's like your Harvards.
Yeah.
And here's this little kid here telling me that he's not going to university. And worse than that, he's going to follow the path that I followed, which has caused my family pain, which is starting businesses. So she was terrified because she told me a couple of years later, the reason I was so angry was because I didn't want you to live like I lived.
Yeah.
In her mind, business was just failure and disappointment and banks repossessing stuff you own.
Yeah.
So.
How interesting. What do you think gave you the, like, in that moment where you have nobody supporting you, your own mom is saying she's never going to talk to you again, like, what gave you the courage to be like, oh, well.
Mate, God, do you know what would have taken courage? Staying at university and becoming something that I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
That I always think that's a really interesting, like, crazy question for me. The risky thing was staying and going and getting this piece of paper, which who the fuck needs a piece of paper to run a business? Like, who am I going to show it to if I'm an entrepreneur? All these like things that just don't add up when you think about them from very first principle truths, which most people don't think about. They just kind of go into life, oh, what's the script? I've got to go this way, then this way, then this way, then got to try and get a job. I was like, man, fuck, like, it's real fucking risky to be, this girl sat next to me in this lecture. It's real risky to try and to go get a job I hate. That's real risky in the face of my own mortality. I'm going to die. Like, none of this shit matters anyway.
Yeah.
So...
Did you think like, well, I'll win my mom back later? Or were you like, all right, we might never talk again?
Yeah, in the most humble way possible. I was like, I love my mom and everything, but my mom doesn't know how to turn on a computer. So how can she tell me that starting an internet business is a bad idea? Yeah. It's just not the person I should be listening to. Yeah. So I forgave my mum in that moment for not knowing better, but I loved her even more for looking out for me, because that's what she's doing. Yeah. She just thinks she knows the best way for Steve to be safe and secure, and I disagree on the route. Yeah. And I often think being selfish in those moments is the most selfless thing you can do. Yeah. Me being selfless in that moment and saying, do you know, my happiness matters more, has resulted, and it doesn't always happen, so I don't want to paint every situation with the same brush, but has resulted in my mum being 100 times happier and safer and more proud of me
Yep.
because I was selfish. So, you know,
The best comparison I've ever heard is the like when you're on a plane and they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before the person
Yeah,
next to you.
yeah.
It's like it's that like age old.
you got to save yourself if you want to.
You gotta save yourself. You want to save
Yeah.
anyone around you. And I met so many people that has made it their like life mission to take care of everyone around them, but they're just a wreck.
If you just think of like the way I think of happiness is literally like a currency.
Mm-hmm.
If I give all of mine away trying to please other people, I will be bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to like, and that's the hard thing with the way that the world, you know, is it just seems easier in the short term just to please a bunch of people, but in the long term, you are going to fuck everything up, which is going to make all those same people so sad and disappointed and unhappy when you are. So, and it's tough. It's tough saying no to your parents, you know,
Yes,
especially
sure
when they're
is.
paying the bills at that age. So I don't think it's easy. I think I'm slightly deluded, think I'm slightly fucked up
Yeah.
because it's not what you should follow you know, like everything tells you should follow advice and blueprints
Sure.
to safety.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what's interesting. That's why I think that things like our podcast have listeners, right? Because
sure.
if you just did well in high school, did well in college, and that gave you all the information that you needed,
Yeah.
why would you ever listen to our podcast?
Yeah.
But people are devouring. I mean, Gary Vee is a American hero because he's giving all these kids something that sounds close to real. You know what I mean? They're like, this isn't what they're talking about in school.
So true.
You know, and so I think that people are like, wait a minute, I found the secret and it's free.
And I think we're at battle now because of social media with two narratives. One of them is mum, college, school, that narrative, that story they're telling you about the way that life works.
Yep.
And now there's this new influence that Instagram and YouTube have created, which is telling you the exact opposite.
Yep.
And so you've got this kind of push-pull scenario happening. And I see this with kids where the people they want to be and the life that they want to live is telling them a different story to what mum and dad and school are telling them. And we're in a bit of a moment now because this other voice is becoming a greater and greater influence in young people's lives.
Yep.
This, you know, the Gary Vaynerchuk voice.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
yeah. And like people like yourself, you're driving that voice and inspiring people. And I genuinely think you're leading them to a better, more fulfilled, happier life. And that's, you know, it's what I love.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's the goal. I mean, that's really what I didn't go to college. I didn't relate to it. I didn't think there was anything there for me. And I was fortunate enough to find some success, right? So I think that my job is to tell people why and say, you know, college is right for some people. You want to be a doctor, lawyer, whatever. If not, let me give you as much of the truth that I've learned because your parents might not tell you it.
Because they have an agenda.
Yeah.
And
safety.
school has an agenda.
Everyone wants safety. Everyone thinks you just go to college. Who cares about that student debt? Who cares about all that stuff? Just at least you'll have that paper, and that paper should be your key to financial safety in America.
And like the college system is almost it's the number one way we rate parents for doing a good job raising that kid. Did he go to college?
That's true.
So in me going to college, I was actually just making my mum a success to herself.
Yeah.
And in getting good grades, I make the school a success to themselves. Yeah. But and that's what I mean by agendas. Like none of those agendas align with my own happiness.
Yeah.
They align with everyone else's definitions of their own success.
Yeah. Very true.
So
what do you do from there? Your mom's mad.
Mum's mad
never
as hell.
speaking to you again.
I go totally broke.
Yeah.
I had 50 quid when I moved to Manchester, and this is like 300-mile round trip away from home. So no one's speaking to me, no one's sending me any money. It's just a downward spiral from there to the point where I'm shoplifting food to feed myself.
Really?
I'm leaving the house in this area known for gun crime called Moss Side, where I'm living above this takeaway, and I'm literally leaving, looking for food left behind. Like I'm leaving, going to takeaways, hoping that someone didn't finish their chicken. And that's me and it goes further and further and further down to the point where, and there's so many photos. Everybody's seen the photos that knows me or follows me on social media, where I'm trying to build this fucking social network on a laptop that has maybe 10 keys. And so like,
because the rest were just missing?
they're just missing.
Yeah.
And I've soldered a Christmas bauble into the wiring of the charger because I can't afford the £15 to buy a new charger at this time. So you can see on these photos that I've taken the soldering of this Christmas bauble into the wiring. It's like this is why when I watch Pursuit of Happiness and I see him fixing that bone density scanner in the hallway with the light, it just hit me like a fucking ton of bricks. That is my when people ask, that's my favorite all-time movie.
Yeah.
Because nothing hit me harder in that moment, seeing that like desperation, walking 3 hours to go to a call center to work night shifts, and just being like a million miles from home, just trying to figure shit out,
Yeah.
not knowing what an entrepreneur was, not having, my parents are now bankrupt at this point, and just trying to figure out how you make this shit work, but knowing that the biggest risk again was not like settling,
Yeah.
going and getting a job. Like,
What was the first business? It was a social media platform or a social network
it's
platform?
like Craigslist for students.
Got it.
Got all the universities on there, got a lot of big brands in the UK using it.
Did you have like partners or how did you?
As in,
Like when you started it, was it like you and a buddy?
it was like me alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
With your keyboard with
It was
no
like me
keys.
alone, and I like drew it on. There's literally a photo of a pizza box which exists online and in my vlogs, and that's why I drew the first design for it on the back of this pizza box because my laptop was broken, and then I took that pizza box. I tried to recreate it on Publisher at the time, wireframing this thing. Not sure how you build a website. Had this piece of paper, and I just marched around and showed everybody this piece of paper that I'd look at it,
Yeah.
including universities, and that develops and. A couple of years down the line of just hustling, maybe 2 years, things start to just give way, like in a positive sense.
Got it.
Doors start to fly open.
Yeah.
Opportunity, they call it luck.
Yeah.
Staying up all night, sending emails, get an email back in the morning because I signed up for something. Some guy, 17-year-old kid, has dropped out of this major event in London because he's got to fly to LA. The 17-year-old kid called Nick that sold us out for 30 million in the end. And they needed a young guy to speak tomorrow in London. I jump a megabus. That's like the travel system in our country.
Yeah.
I sleep on a bench in London the following day, but I spoke on stage at this event, and I spoke with so much passion. By the time I got back to my table, it was literally bombarded with people that were queuing at my table to speak to me, give me investment. Do you still need investment? Do you need partners? Let me introduce you to this person. From that event alone, I got introduced to Steve and Tim, who made Friends Reunited, which at one point was one of the biggest social networks in the world. Spiraling, just knocking on doors. They just start flying open, start meeting people. Met a developer, persuaded him to leave his job and come and build this website for me for equity. I didn't have money to pay him. Yeah, spirals. And then we get to the point where we have to market the thing. And that's kind of where my new business comes into play.
Yep.
Again, launch the company, try a bunch of marketing things. Nothing works but this one thing on social media. And I decided, I started believing more in that. I started believing that social media would be the platform because of these very fundamental truths I believed in.
Yeah.
And I ended up resigning out of the blue. I just quit. And I said, I'm going to do this social media thing instead because I believe in it. And they didn't believe in it. My investors said, stop wasting your time and money building these social media pages. And I said to them at the time, this is where all the attention is. The website isn't, we're just siphoning a fraction away from the attention.
Yeah.
And that's when Social Team began.
Where did what ended up happening to the old business? Are they still going?
They tried to hire another CEO for a while, and I think they hired one in the end, carried on for a little bit, and then it collapsed.
Got it. And then, so tell me about the new thing. So now you say, okay, I recognize that all the attention's on social media. You want to find a way into that. What's the strategy, like getting started?
So I noticed that when I was handing out flyers to try and get people to come to my website, they weren't working, but people were ignoring me. And more importantly, when I was handing out these flyers on the street, they were all glued to the palm of their hand. And everything I say now is going to sound like common sense, but it was not. And I'll make that, I've got a few ways of making it clear the time we were living in terms of our relationship with social media. So I went to Domino's Pizza and I got 100 of these free pizza vouchers that they handed out during the Freshers Week, Freshman Week, or whatever they call it here. And I'd give you a pizza voucher in exchange for a screenshot of the settings section in your phone, which tells me where you spend all your time, your
Like
battery,
the battery
section.
Yeah.
And all of the screenshots were saying that it was like Facebook and Twitter predominantly in our country. So I thought I'm just going to own as much real estate where the attention is. So I went on Twitter. I typed in the word student. The first page that came up was called Student Problems. Had 5,000 followers. The next day it had 7,000. I contact the guy called Dominic McGregor. I say, meet me in between your university and where I am in Manchester, a place called York. Walk into a bar, tell him to drop out of university and come with me to Manchester. I can pay you £500 a month. We're going to build all of the student social media pages, just like the one you've just started. And much to his mother's dismay, he was very persuadable. He dropped out of university and moved to Manchester. And Dom is now,
Still,
he's
your partner?
a co-founder.
Yeah.
So he's a multi-millionaire.
Good for him.
Taking it back to that moment, that that drove more traffic. We drove 1 million people to my website from that a month. So I was like, this is fucking astounding.
Yeah.
Spotify called me,
Yeah.
wanted to do a campaign on my website. I'm like, no, like do it on the social media pages. That's where you'll get the results. And when I heard myself saying that, I realized I was doing something I didn't believe in. And that was the real defining moment for me, which was building this website and getting 25% of the attention to this website, then selling people there. I was like, why can't you put the brand directly onto these social media communities? And to give you an idea of how crazy of an idea that was back then, a big brand, which I won't name, back then in this time sold for roughly about £1,000.
Okay.
A big social media page. That same brand today is worth 100 million. It got valued at last raise at 100 million. My friend sold it to my other friend for £1,000. That gives you an idea. No one gave. It's hard to put yourself in this headspace. No one gave a fuck about social media pages.
And that was a page? That's
a Facebook page, which is now a media company, right? That's what happened to these brands. So what I did at 21 years old is I went around all of the world. I met every young kid who built these big social media pages. I met a kid called Connor, had 17 million followers, biggest food page in the world, biggest fitness page in the world. Hired all of them, acquired all of their assets. And there was literally like 45 of them. And they all still work at Social today.
Wow.
I've met this one girl called Hannah. She was, these kids, they just built these pages around their interests. So Hannah was the biggest Harry Potter fan you'll ever meet. Biggest Harry Potter page in the world. She ran. Biggest Sims, the game, biggest Sims page in the world. She came on super early, texted me one day, hey Steve, my parents are asking if this social chain thing is going to be real because I've got to go get a job as a teacher. Just finished my university course and my placement. And I said, yeah, sure, it's going to be a real thing. Like, not sure. Like, she joined me. Last week, she was voted in Vogue as the top 25 most influential woman in the world.
Wow.
She started from Harry Potter pages. She's now we've made her like a co-founder of the company and stuff. So, things have really changed.
Yeah, that's incredible.
She was alongside, really interesting for her, J.K. Rowling was next to her in the list.
Wow, really?
Who wrote Harry Potter.
This came full circle.
Crying,
Dream come true.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
That's
the age.
So your strategy in the beginning was just go snatch up all these pages and just get the eyeballs?
Because when you just focus on these things to be true, like it's the story of my life is like, fuck what convention says. Convention says that the value in advertising is over here. But when you look at the facts, there are millions, I can get millions of people to come to my website for free by doing this one thing. I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to triple down here and then the world catches up.
So true. I feel like that's happening on the grandest scale that it's ever happened in the history of the United States, the history of the world.
Facts.
And I feel like it is so. We did a thing this morning. I had this other podcast. We did a thing this morning where we were talking about how incredibly tiny the advertising space is in podcasting. And we were saying that, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head now, but something like total revenue, ad revenue in 2017 for podcasting, I think was 300 million or something. In like newspapers, it's like 16 billion or something ridiculous. TV is like 68 billion, whatever. And my friend was arguing that, yeah, well, podcasts just aren't as big as people think they are. And I said, no, this just shows how insanely behind the ad stream, that business model is to where all the attention is really at and going.
I've got all of the graphs of exactly what you've just described.
Really?
And none of them make sense. And if you look at them historically, they all go one direction. They all catch up eventually. So you're right. Like radio is still over-indexing ridiculously with advertising spend.
Billions and billions of dollars.
You can't track anything in terms of the return. You don't know how, nobody really knows with radio how many people are actually listening. B, the consumer that matters the most, especially in our country, I don't know if it's the same here, isn't listening to analog radio anymore. They're listening to streaming services. They're listening to podcasts. Like podcasting has just snatched the conversational side of radio away. Spotify has snatched the music side of it away. And it's all, we are now the on-demand generation. All of the numbers say the same thing. It will catch up.
How long until it catches up, do you think? How long until you look at the graph and you say, this seems right?
The crazy thing is the graph is never right.
True. So true. Okay, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
True. But let me say this. How long until ad dollar...
because
fuck. You can't even ask that question
podcasting will catch up when it shouldn't. Because there'll be a new thing. So it's just the powers that basically, and what I'm saying now, we're launching a company called Cast Chain, which is basically, it's a network of podcast creators. We help them monetize their podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. We help them grow. The people that are interested in partnering with us are the biggest radio companies in the world,
Yep.
right? The biggest, like the people that own 2,000 radio stations, and they'll catch up eventually, and then they'll start to move ad dollars over. And as they start to move ad dollars over, there'll be a new, interesting, more compelling format, which they're just so slow moving.
Yeah.
It'll take them a decade to catch up. They're all launching podcasts now, all these big conglomerates. It's like the new thing right now. This is why you're very, very smart in what you're doing, because in 3 years' time, or like even like in a year's time, it's going to be, I would almost refer to it as too late.
Yeah.
If you
I agree. I almost feel too late now. I've been doing this shit for 2 years. I already feel like, damn, like
You always
if I would have
feel
been
too
2 years earlier,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those, like the Tim Ferriss, not that Tim Ferriss doesn't do a great job, he does, but all those guys just started so early.
And when they
Mark
shouldn't
Maron,
have.
Yeah. They should absolutely
Way before they
should
shouldn't
not have.
You were an idiot for starting when
Yeah.
Tim started,
So true.
because there was people weren't really listening. Money wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Same with Facebook.
Yeah.
Think about my story in like Facebook. We could get a Facebook page to 1 million followers in an afternoon because they were just inherently viral. The name of a Facebook page would go viral.
Yeah.
If you made a page called "I hate walking behind people slow in New York" or something relatable, the way the algorithm was, it would just send, if you like it sends it to all your friends.
Yep.
So if you'd gone then, you could have made $1 billion company if you had just been aggressive on Facebook page making in 2012.
Yeah.
$1 billion company. Same with all of these formats. So, lesson to learn.
Is there anything now that you think is like the equivalent of what podcasting was
That's a
then?
good question. So there are a few things. Blockchain.
Yeah.
Okay. Too early. If you're messing around with it now, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Are you invested?
I am, but I'm not invested how I should be.
Uh-huh.
You shouldn't be buying like Bitcoin. You should be building a blockchain company.
Yeah.
Those are the future billionaires,
Yeah.
like facts. I think that's the main one that troubles me. And then digital audio is a great space. That's why we're investing heavily in it.
Yeah.
Again, the way people share stuff has changed. So stories, although it sounds crazy, are gonna, I don't know if you heard this, but they're gonna overtake the newsfeed as the number one way we share stuff with friends. Mark Zuckerberg said next year.
Really?
So there's two things I've done. First thing is I got involved in a company called Unfold.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically allows you to make really cool, simple stories from these like preset templates.
Mm-hmm.
It's exploded. 100,000 users a day they're doing organically. Second thing is I launched a studio called 916. I think it was either 1690. I always get 916, which is basically for brands, produces content which is story shape.
Yeah.
Like, so this,
It's amazing how literally the format of video changed to vertical.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it just was like the thought of filming something cool on your phone vertically 2 years ago was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Now it's the only way to do it.
What I think happened is because mobile internet got so good,
Mm-hmm.
the story is just the modern day status update.
Yeah.
Nobody's updating their Facebook status anymore because now you can do it with audio and visual.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it's the same cycles repeating themselves, but technology changes. So it allows me to tell my friend now, not through text that I'm at the football match, but through boom, which is a better experience.
Yeah.
It's just a status update.
Yeah.
And Facebook, they were mad when Snapchat did that because they own the status update. So they went and got it back.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah.
You think that's the path to follow? Like that's where it's going? The whole like looking at your phone saying, here we are, here's what so-and-so's doing, gone in 24 hours. Like you think that's what looks like the future to you?
I think when I try and predict the future, I look at the way what's going to be possible with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if it will be that. I think to think that will hold these big blocks that we have to charge is really kind of like, it's not better. It's not better than not holding the block.
Yep.
And it was the same with the music industry, right? The reason why most of the music industry retailers failed so badly was because they genuinely believed that people came to the music store because they liked buying a plastic circle disc.
Mm-hmm.
They liked leaving the house when it's raining, traveling for 10 minutes to go and buy a plastic. They thought people wanted plastic discs.
Mm-hmm.
So what they didn't realize was what people were actually buying is music.
Yeah.
And then iTunes comes along.
Yeah.
And I literally I've been privy to a conversation with the owner of one of the biggest music stores in the world and another guy. And he genuinely, the reason why their business went under was because they didn't realize what people were actually trying to do at the most fundamental level.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a mobile phone. I don't want to have to continually have this big block which runs out of. I'd much rather have like a contact lens.
Yeah.
And then people go, oh no, that's scary, or something in my brain. Oh no, you wouldn't ever put something in your brain.
Yeah.
But if I told my great-great-grandparents that they were going to walk around glued to this thing in their hands and have their romantic relationships through a piece of glass, they would have said, never, never.
Yeah.
So better wins.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what will happen.
Let me ask you this too. Like, would you say, as someone who's so tuned into this stuff and is doing it yourself, like for an up and coming, we'll say entrepreneur, because that's what we kind of have in common. As far as building a personal brand, what do you think are the must-dos?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So the single most important thing for me, building a personal brand as an entrepreneur, has been keeping it really real.
Mm-hmm.
Like understanding that what I say will have somebody in some part of the world literally tell me to fuck off, and that I'm a stupid whatever wearing a hat, and that I think I'm this and I'm a fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But then me saying it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a great. Basically, the way I learned this lesson was, I've seen like Piers Morgan and Donald Trump, and this is a crazy thing to say if you don't like Trump, because people that don't like Trump really don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been really inspired by what he's done, because although you hate him, the attention is just orbiting around him.
Yeah.
One day I got really tired, and I'd been booked to go speak at this panel in London, which I did not want to speak at. And I'm sat on this panel not paying attention at all, just counting down the time. Long, long day, thinking about a million other things. And a girl on the right-hand side of the stage, who was on the panel as well, said, young people are lazy, as part of something she was saying. And everyone in the audience burst out laughing. For a second, I just forgot where I was, and I just snapped. And I just went, what she just said is so offensive. Mm-hmm. The problem is, with that statement, is young people aren't lazy for not doing what you want them to do. Just like when I was a kid, it's the parents and the institutions that are lazy for not taking the time to understand the kids. And I literally just snapped, and I was like, so really the parents and the school are lazy. Young people are not lazy. Yeah. I was lazy when it came to pushing around a plastic baby when I was 14 around my school as part of my course. Yeah. I wasn't lazy when it came to building a multi-million-pound company with a bunch of kids, because we love doing that. So it's a really naive, lazy thing to do, to say that. Yeah. I snapped. Best thing I ever said. Yeah. And it felt the most raw. I felt it hit the room like a ton of bricks. I watched the video.
Immediate reaction? Did you feel like, oh shit?
I was like, oh shit, and a bit of an adrenaline rush, and then, fuck, that's it. Yeah. In a world where everybody is playing it safe and conforming and just trying to please everybody, the ones that say, no, this is what I believe and this is what I think university is a scam. Mm-hmm. I know you're going to tell me to fuck off because you are lecturers, you work in schools, and and it's just done the most for my personal brand ever, is that real fucking truth. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm just being honest. Because I don't have no intent. There's no upside in me just playing devil's advocate.
And it's almost like, even just being honest, it's like finding a way to like be honest and like sift it down to its most simple form. Mm-hmm. Because nobody wants to hear you sit and talk for an hour about all the legitimate reasons why college may be a scam, and that's boring. Fuck college. It's a rip off. It's a scam. This is what's really going on. Take that. It's like,
and
Steve.
And I've not got all the facts and figures, and I don't give a fuck. Right. And I'll be back tomorrow with some more for you. It's literally like that on my LinkedIn, especially. Right. Yeah. And it's that point of authenticity and realness, which is so rare in the world we live in, because everything is filtered, everything is Instagram, everything is impressions, and anybody out here who has the guts to be themselves and really honest about what they think and feel, it's the quickest way to build a personal brand for me.
That's great.
So
let me ask you this too, just so I can wrap my head around, like, what is we just talked, I think, before we started recording about how you've been in 7 different countries in the last 10 days.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Every time I see you, you're only here for, 10 hours. What does your life look like now? Like, are you traveling to all these places? Are you doing speaking? Are you trying to get brand partnerships? Like, what do you do now?
Okay,
you're 25 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the company has grown into 2 companies, which is the marketing agency and the media business that owns all of those channels. What happened recently was we took investment about 2 years ago to introduce e-commerce, so selling our own products. Yep. That grew out, the marketing business grew out, the media business grew out. So we made this group called the Social Chain Group, and then we started acquiring loads of companies. into this group and also expanding Social Chain into 5 countries around the world. So we're in Berlin, we've got a team of 20 there, Manchester, London headquarters, New York, we've got 40 people now, but Munich as well, just for the marketing agency, not for the media business. So this group became about 30 companies, and my investor, who's a fairly well-known killer media guy, absolute genius, decided that I was the best person to become the CEO of the whole company, the whole group, sorry. So now my job is really, it's really, as Gary says, like clouds and dirt.
Yeah.
In the sense that today I was, before this meeting, I was literally with a client planning out a small activation for their brand that is worth a couple of $1,000 to, at the top end, my day today will be acquiring big businesses for millions and millions and millions of pounds.
Yeah.
And
then you have a party tonight with DJ Khaled.
Yeah, and then we have like a party. Yeah, like, and but then it might also be, it's like I try and stay in touch with the dirt. So every day it's someone's birthday, any part of the world in our company, my girl that works in the UK team and our happiness team, she'll send me their birthday, or if it's their 1-year anniversary at Social, I'll voice note them and say, happy birthday, Alex. Sorry I couldn't be there,
Yeah.
So I'm trying to stay super in touch on that level too.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's pretty crazy. It's like, that's why I've been in so many countries, and then trying to weigh up my personal brand stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Isn't that, I mean, don't you think that showing, like just vlogging or whatever and showing how absolutely chaotic all that is, and like going to 7 countries in 10 days is the thing? Like, why don't you just have a guy behind you with a camera all the time?
I did for about a year.
Why don't you do it again?
It's a great question.
Yeah,
my
you
brand
gotta
manager would
start.
tell you to,
Because I don't think you'd really have to do much extra work, right? Other than the intro, outro. Just do the Gary Vee thing. Let someone follow you around and yell shit into the camera every now and then.
Yeah, Gary Vee will tell you that it's much harder than that.
Well, I know.
Because
I know
they need stuff from you as well.
Yeah.
They need you to turn to the camera at the end and say, check out it, or rant into the camera, and always having little things that piss me off about doing it, like
Of course.
putting on the microphone at all times.
But damn it, I think it's worth it. Look what it did for Gary.
I know.
Guy's a superstar. Anyway, just saying, think about it. I'll think about doing a solo podcast. You think about picking up the vlog.
How
again.
about, instead of thinking about it, because I don't have time to think, we both agree that I will do that again. I will relaunch my vlog, and I'll have someone follow me at all times if you do the solo podcast.
Deal.
Okay.
We just shook on it. Okay, so then here's my next question. Where the hell? I mean, you're 25 years old. You've like.
This question, I hate this question.
Do you?
Yeah, because I don't know the answer. And it scares me not knowing the answer.
That's okay. So when you look ahead, like how do you see the future? Do you see it? You obviously don't see it in the form of these like long-term hard goals.
No.
Do you see it in more of just grind it out and build and see where we end up?
So when I was younger, I wrote in my diary at 18, and again, everyone's seen my fucking diary because I put it in all my videos.
Yeah.
I wrote, here are 4 things I want to do before I'm 18.
Yeah.
And I've still got the diary. It's becoming, it's in the process of working with a big publisher to turn it into something a little bit more. But I want to be a millionaire before I'm 25. I want a Range Rover to be my first car. I want to work on my body image, and I want to hold a long-term relationship. Long story. I'm not going to go to the last 2.
But you did all 3, right?
I did all 4.
All 4, I meant.
Yeah. So I did all 4 before I was 25. Range Rover was my first car. I made it. Yeah. And when I was that age, I was pinning my happiness almost on these like the achievement of these future extrinsic goals.
Yep.
And there was almost a sense of anticlimax when I get to 25 and I have done these things, and you almost expect there to be your happiness to have scaled with the success. And it just wasn't the case. And in that moment, I learned that it's very, very important for me to never, ever pin my happiness or myself on future goals, because I will never, ever, ever be there. Mm-hmm. So I really started to develop this idea of like, I'm already there. Mm-hmm. Live my life now, already there, mm-hmm. because I'm never going to get there. So what does that mean practically? It means having good relationships with my family and my, romantic partners and friends now. Mm-hmm. Not,
Mm-hmm.
once I sell the company and then I'll chill out. No, it's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. The nature of who I am is I'm always going to be building. So being good to the world now, doing the personal brand stuff more now for others, not just, there's this expression like cutting down the rainforest, then donating to the bees.
Yep.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
You've got to build within the rainforest, and you can't hurt the rainforest while you're getting there. So trying to build a really sustainable life now under this idea that I'm already everything I need to be.
Yeah.
I'm more than enough. I've achieved everything that I needed to achieve. I am who I need. There's no more that I need to become.
Yep.
But also, there's so much more that I can do at the same time. So it's this total. I'm living a total contradiction of being there already, but being a million miles away.
Yeah, it's all about finding that right contradiction. You know what I mean? It's never the one thing. It's like the balance of these two things that make no sense against each other.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Where does, kind of hippy-dippy question, but genuinely curious, to have that clarity at 25, usually at 25, you're still chasing money. You still think money's going to make you happy. You still think the car is going to make you happy. You still think whatever. So you already are beyond that. You're flying all around. You're doing all this stuff. Where does your happiness come from?
It's a great fucking question.
Like if you went to bed tonight and you were like, I am unhappy right now, what do you do to correct that and to...
It comes from people, and it comes from... it's such an interesting question. And the reason why it makes me feel awkward when you ask me it is because it's because I'm still in the process of understanding that question. I am so fulfilled and so happy, but I honestly don't know why. Here's why I think. Because I'm constantly challenged. I'm constantly pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, which is driving these new accomplishments within my life. I'm being exactly who I am every day in every sense of the word. I'm being the entrepreneur I was at 12 years old. I'm being the straight talking person that I'm not holding myself back in any regard. I feel like I'm doing good in the world because I've created a place which makes other people's lives better. Social Chain is a very, very unique office environment in the sense that you have total freedom. Unlimited holidays. If you don't want to come in the morning, don't come in. No one's counting. No one's checking on you. It's just like nothing. We pay for everyone's mental health therapists. We pay for currently about 16 people seeing our therapists. I've tried to completely reimagine the way work has to be. There's slides, there's like puppies, ball pools. If you want to go on holiday for 3 months, you can go on holiday for 3 months and walk straight back into your job. It's and that I get so much reward from changing what the relationship that people think they should have with work. People think work funds your fun or it funds your life. I think it's life balance. And that I get a huge amount of reward from that. I think that what I'm doing longer term is I'm building a weapon which can change the world. And the weapon is myself. It's like through Social Chain, I'm learning about people. I'm learning how to sit down with a client and negotiate. I'm learning how you raise investment. I'm learning how you tell stories. I'm learning how you speak on stage to like last week, 1,000 people in Prague. I'm a student that's honing myself for something much greater, and I don't know what that is yet. I will be satisfied when I'm great. I'm not great now. Martin Luther King was great, and because he was willing to put himself before something he really believed in that would make the world a better place. My end goal is becoming great. That's why which is one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen, was this talk, Martin Luther King's last speech, where he goes up on stage and says to this group of people, I've been to the mountaintop and you get there. This room of black people. He says, you get there, but I don't get there with you. And he says, but you don't need me now. And he bursts into tears. Next day he's shot dead. He knew. He was willing to die for something he believed. Am I? No. I'm not.
Do you think you'll ever be?
I fucking hope so.
Yeah, like you want to find.
Yeah, that's where I want to get to.
Yeah.
Where, do you know what I mean? And that's the same with Elon Musk, where I respect him so much because people think he's doing this Tesla thing or SpaceX to make money. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. He's sleeping on the floor of his Tesla factory and risking everything he is, every penny he made from PayPal in the pursuit of space travel and saving the fucking planet. He's a modern day superhero. Fuck me doing my tweets. I don't compare.
My friend was in here today and he just happened to, just saying it because it's such a coincidence, he happened to be at a mutual friend of ours' house, and Elon apparently was friends with him and was jogging in the neighborhood over the weekend and stopped by and was just talking. And he's like, this guy on like a Saturday in his small talk was talking about how humans are great. We're just very self-destructive and we just destroy things around us. And eventually, if you care about humans, you're going to have to figure out how to get to Mars. And he thinks we can get there in 8 years or blah, blah, blah. And like, that was his small talk, you know? And I'm like, what the hell? This is like, you're on a jog and you're thinking about like.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
So this is something I'm quite interested in, because I think I might have been bullshitting myself for some time, but I also don't know if I have been. One of the things I've always said to myself over the last couple of years is focus on yourself, build yourself up, and then that time will come to be the Jeff Bezos or the Tesla, and build go after these big challenges. Because I don't think that Elon could have done, if some guy ran past you in the street and just started muttering that, you'd think this guy needs fucking help. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
do you know what I mean? If it was just some guy, right?
Absolutely.
But Elon Musk saying it, you're like, oh yeah, fucking, because of his reputation, his resource, and all these things.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do an Elon or a Jeff without, or even a Bill Gates, curing illnesses like diseases, without first building your Microsoft, your PayPal, your Amazon?
I personally think it's next to impossible. I think anyone who's truly done something that was, the priority was people, and on that scale, had some sort of cash flow from somewhere. You know what I mean?
It's more like, for me, it's like the reputation. Like if Bill Gates says to, like, Elon Musk went to NASA and got NASA to sponsor SpaceX. Joey jogging down the street can't go to NASA and get them to buy into his ability to get something done.
You know what I think more happens is like, I think that Elon, for instance, could have started with Tesla and then done SpaceX, and we would have started to believe him, and his brand would have got so big, we would have believed him. I think that his initial money is what helped even fund to make that happen. There's no way to create something on that scale that gets people's attention.
You can't even get in the room.
And you're not going to raise any money, right? You're not going to raise any money to start Tesla if you haven't already proved that you know how to do these revolutionary things. So I think to start from zero is just nearly impossible. You can't raise money because everyone's just going to think you're a kook. You can't build a fan base because everyone's going to say, who the hell are you? I think it's really hard. But I do think that you can do it without, to be honest, I think money is the issue. I think money and people's trust is the issue. And it's just hard to come into the game with something that is making a lot of cash while building trust, while genuinely being so forward thinking.
Yeah.
That's
I agree.
nearly impossible.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I've been telling myself.
Yeah.
So,
I think you're thinking the right thing. I don't think you're copping out. I would tell you if I think that was a cop out. Like if I thought you were like, no, bro, you're just comfortable.
Excuses.
Yeah. I don't think it is.
I'm scared. Okay, good.
Let me ask you the big question that we debated on yours, and not debated like we disagreed, but the age-old question: are entrepreneurs born or made?
So I actually don't think we disagreed.
I don't think we did either. I think you were just devil's advocate.
I was playing devil's advocate. I was coming back because I was telling you about the kid on my Facebook that doesn't have the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Did you ever make that video? Remember I told you to make a video saying,
it's
here's
been bugging
the
me.
proper way to hit somebody up? You got to do
That's
it.
a brilliant. I thought about that when I go back to the UK. I was
You
like,
got to do it.
fucking. So to answer your question, I think entrepreneurs can be made. I think that entrepreneurs some people have natural, what do they call them, like prerequisites or something? Natural wiring.
Strengths.
Yeah. That makes them more likely to succeed at being a certain type of entrepreneur. So the type of entrepreneur that I am is very, I speak on stage. It's all about my ideas. I'm not wired in the way of being a technical entrepreneur that's building tech products, right? So different wiring allows you to become a different type of, be good at being a certain type of entrepreneur. I used to think that everyone could become an entrepreneur, but I do now think that there is a particularly small contingent of people that, no, I retract that, because again, we discussed this, and even those people could just sell something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it was selling an apple.
Yeah, because the other thing is
Everyone can
entrepreneur is like, I think when people ask that question, they're acting like entrepreneur is like this one specific thing. When that's like saying athlete almost.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
it's like
And that's
you
the
could
trap I
be
fall
any
into.
type of.
You could be selling apples and be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I continually think of building big global businesses when I think entrepreneur, or it's just not the case. Entrepreneurs. My mum was an entrepreneur when she was 7 in Africa, selling on her mum's stall. Like,
so there's hope for everyone.
There is, yeah.
I
but I think at this point of knowing who you are is the single most important thing. Like knowing what your skills are and playing to those skills.
That's self-awareness, man. I wish there was like a doctor's visit, like a physical, where they would give you like this is what you really
this is what you're like
say
really good
and sound like and are good at. And
this
you
is
know
what people think
Here's
of
what
you
people think
when
of
you when you speak. Like they're not receptive to you. They think you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Like
wish
wouldn't that
we
be the
could do
most
that.
important thing ever?
Man, I just want a sheet. I just want to go in for like yearly checkups.
Yeah,
Like, hey,
and
you're
see how
getting
it's
better
changing.
at this, but
yeah,
you're still kind of a dick.
but you know, it's still it's what I've noticed is it does yourself. The world's opinion of you changes as you change.
Yeah.
And when I was 18, I had to play a different game to win. I had to play this super humble, I'm just happy to be here kind of guy, and people would they would open these doors for me just because I was humble and I was, you know, slightly inspiring with what I was doing at 18. They kind of cute little guy. Let's open the door for him.
Yeah.
At my age now, they open the door for different reasons.
Yep.
And if I was the humble cutesy, no one would open the same door.
Yep.
Something that I've learned, and also I've got to perfect the balance of like knowing what people's prejudices think of a 25-year-old black guy that wears snapbacks when I walk in the room. And I've got to play to it. If I want to win, I've got to play to that.
Yeah, that's incredible self-awareness. I always felt like when I was 25 and was doing really well with the business, and like I always felt like I had to be extra on point with my knowledge, because people would always almost give me the vibe of like, oh, this is cool, but like, where's the adult? You know, like, where's the person in charge here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always had to be like extra, you know, like, well, here's our margins, and just talk about shit that's like, oh, you only know that if you're really doing it, you know? But it was interesting. But I think in some ways it also made me sound like an asshole because I felt like I was trying to prove I was smart.
Do you think that in some respects it was also your strength?
Which part? That I was so
being
young? Yeah, I do. Because I think that I was more, like, it made it more, I was more likable and fun, and people wanted me around. It wasn't like the guy who, you know, he's going to call us asking for money and he's going to blah, blah, blah. It was more fun relationships with everyone, but at the same time, that hurt I think there was this respect thing.
Sure.
Right? Where like if you had an adult, if you were 35,
it would have been a different.
You know, I remember being like, I just can't wait to be 30, because I think at 30, it's like he's a young, successful person, but we believe that he's the one doing it. You know.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, shit, I wouldn't mind going back to 25.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't so bad.
Yeah. I think people underestimating me at that age was all of my power, because I knew when I walked in the room, they thought I was, let's say, if it's a scale of 10, they thought I was a 3.
Yeah.
Walking in, they look at me, they think this is going to be a 3. Young, we can't expect much from him. If I come in at a 7, right?
Yeah.
The difference between the 3 and the 7 is what I call impact.
Yep.
That's the whoa, oh my God. And that was what was flying the doors open, was you would judge me when I walked in the room with my afro at 18 years old. But then what I'd say to you you'd be like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Huge benefit.
So
okay, last one.
Sure.
If you could go back to young version of yourself, and let's just say, because I try to pick a time frame, let's say you're breaking into schools, you're tinkering around trying to figure out how to build a bomb, you're just lighting shit on fire left and right, trying to dodge getting cayenne pepper put in your face.
Yep.
And you could tell yourself anything. And what I always say is like, really try to picture like, hey little buddy, blah, blah, blah. And it just takes a lot of the unnecessary maybe worry or trouble or whatever off of your hands. What would you tell that version of yourself?
I would say to myself, you know that 80% that tells you all of these fuckers are wrong, but you have no proof? I just whisper, you're right. I just take away that 20%, because that 20% was the lack of having a case study to prove them wrong.
Yep.
That being the 16-year-old kid that genuinely arrived at the opinion that I wouldn't need school, even though everyone influential in my life told me that the grade, basically the unimplied thing is the grade you get directly correlates to the lifestyle and therefore the happiness you'll have thereafter. If you get an A, you're going to be happy and rich. If you get a D, you're going to be like kind of broke, struggling.
Literally, like there's a picture of a life that comes along with the grade. I
had nothing to prove they were wrong, but I believe they were. And I just would have removed that 20%, because I tell you, I don't think people think I'm anti-education. No, I'm pro-education. I just don't think I'm just pro the right type of education.
Yep.
And I probably wouldn't have gone back to school ever. That 20% attendance I had would have been 0. I genuinely believe that.
Yep.
And I would have been much more aggressive and all these kinds of things. So the lesson that teaches me now is there are still some things which I'm 80-20 on.
Yeah. That's
And
what I was
it's
going to ask.
just to be
You still need to shut up that 20 sometimes? Yeah.
these very first principles, if they all line up and you believe something to be true, even though convention or whatever else tells you otherwise or another path is the path to take, just go with that. Go with that.
Yep.
You know?
Every time.
Even when you fuck up, because sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah.
For the few times that you don't, it'll completely change the trajectory and everything important that in your life.
Agreed. Tell people where to find you. Diary of a CEO, everywhere where podcasts are.
Just type in Steve Bartlett. I'll come up on most things. So yeah.
There it is, man. Thank you so much for
No
doing
worries.
this.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
That was a good
Thank You,
trade.
bro. Appreciate it.
Pod
Thank you.
for pod.
Yeah.
And I'll see you
Great.
tonight probably.
For sure.
Guys, if you like that and you want to see more like it, as well as vlogs, other web series, and all the random stuff that I'm doing here on YouTube, don't forget to click that subscribe button. You won't regret it. I promise.